Public, which is nation under God, indivisible, with Barbara, if you would, do the roll. Here. And just to introduce everybody, we have Al Frederico, who is the Upper Chichester Transportation Engineer in attendance. So he'll just be participating in the meeting. If anybody wants to call in and ask any questions, Al will be here. All right. The engineer will be slightly late. Okay, he's stuck in traffic on 322, but should be a couple minutes. In the event, let's flip this around just a couple minutes here so that we can get here when Alex shows up. So let's start on our agenda with Heart and Soul. Okay, we'll jump down to there. All right, Joe Shaw.
Yeah, so Heart and Soul, the update we have for that is they worked with a fire company and they mailed out 6,500 household surveys. Oh, sorry. So Heart, is that this one? Yeah, a little closer. Yeah. Heart and Soul worked with the fire company to mail out 6,500 surveys to households for the introduction of the Heart and Soul volunteer opportunities.
We have sent out 200. Was that a nice plan?
We received a letter from Catania Engineering regarding the saldo updates. The letter contains their recommendations. Hopefully everybody got a copy of it. I guess at some future point we will evaluate it and move forward.
Anybody have any questions with respect to saldo? We do have some training coming up. We're going to attend some of us, or is it all of us? I'm not sure. Some of us are going to be attending a zoning administration class. It will be offered on 3 separate dates. It won't be a repeat each date. It will be additional information each date. The 14th of September, 21st of September, 8th of September. So right now, I'd like to, Andrew, I'd like to open up the phones for some public comment prior to our discussion with the 2 presentations that we have tonight, one from Maple Zone and the other one from Dunkin. And at that time, after their presentations are made, we will open it up for public comment once again. Right, so the call-in number for public comment is area code 571-748-4021. Have to enter the passcode 886-78217#. I'll repeat both of those. Phone number is 571-748-4021. Passcode is 886-678-217#. And we'll give that 2 or 3 minutes to see if we have any general comments from the public. Give it 1 more minute. Okay, Andrew, we'll close it down for public comments. Hearing none, let's move on a little bit. Can I hear a motion regarding the approval of our July minutes? Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. All right. I'd like to start right now with our presentation from Dunkin. And keep in mind, our engineer is not here as of yet, but he should be here momentarily. Okay. So who is going to represent Dunkin tonight?
They're not here. I just checked with Andrew to see if they're online, and they're not. I just texted her the second. So hopefully she'll call me back.
Okay. Probably right in back of Alex on Route 322. All right. So if that being said, let's move on to Maple Zone, if that's okay. All right. Matt, are you going to be representing? Right. You want to announce your name? Stand up, announce your name for the record.
My name is Matthew Hootman, professional engineer and president of the firm of G.D. Hootman and Son, with offices in Media, Pennsylvania, and we were retained by the applicant to prepare land development plans for a proposed hotel at the Maple Zone facilities next to the athletic fields. Just go ahead and. Yeah, sure. So again, the project is the hotel at Maple Zone. I believe last month a presentation was made to the Planning Commission. As you remember, the hotel was shown on the approved Maple Zone plans a number of years ago. That was the athletic fields, and it had 3 pad sites. Pad 1 was a commercial building. Pad 2, which was the hotel, which is in front of the Planning Commission tonight. And Pad 3 was the corner lot, which was earmarked for a restaurant. However, those Pads 3 and 1 will remain vacant. Only Pad 2 is being contemplated to be developed at this time, and again for a hotel. The initial submittal, as you recall, was a 72-room hotel, 3-story, and it had 1 access towards its easterly edge and no access around the rear of the building. Comments were generated by the township engineer on June 9th, 2021, and by the fire marshal and zoning officer. And some of the major aspects of that review was to provide a second access to Butler Farm Drive, and also to at least provide some partial access at the rear of the proposed building on either end. So the plans were resubmitted, and then a second round of comments were issued by the township engineer on August 20th, 21. Kind of lumped them into 4 general categories. 1 being loading area comments, 2 traffic comments, 3 stormwater management comments, and 4 general comments. And I have with me our reply letter, which restates the township engineer's comments and then provides the applicant's response to each one of those comments. I can pass those out in a minute. Before we go over the comments, I would like to say that the applicant would be requesting a recommendation from the Planning Commission tonight. And that's primarily because of the construction schedule for the proposed hotel and the need to try to limit the disruption to the access to the athletic fields. The prime time to start this project is in October to get some earthwork and building foundations done and work on the walls and enclose the building and roof before the hard winter steps in. Otherwise, construction would get delayed till next spring through spring and summer, which would be the heavy usage of the athletic field. So again, I can go through each one of these comments. I think we can comply with them all. And it would be our hope that at the end of the presentation and discussion with the Planning Commission, that we can get a recommendation from this body. Again, we can go over each of the comments.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Matt, this is your August 26th letter?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we all have a copy of it. Barbara was kind enough to make it for us. Barbara, can we amend the minutes that our engineer is Alex Rodriguez? Alex, if you would, what I'd like is you to briefly give us your overview of your sense with respect to the plan itself, but unless somebody has any comments otherwise, the comments here that are concurring with what's being recommended, unless you have any individual comments. One by one, do we need to go through all of these, or can we just, where there's a comply or we're comment, et cetera, is that sufficient for everybody, or do you want to hear that? Okay.
And if I may, maybe before Alex starts, I would like to point out a couple of the primary or principal changes from the last time you saw the plan.
Certainly.
Is Andrew back there? If we can. It's called the revised. That's it. Yeah, that's the one. There was a couple comments from the township engineer, and some of them had to do with the traffic circulation around up front, because we had a loading area on the north side of the portico, and also with the trash truck movement back to the refuge area and getting back out. Now, what we've done is relocated the loading area from in front of the portico to behind the building, and also provided additional macadam and maneuvering here, such that now we can get a garbage truck to come into the site, to the refuge area, back out, and then leave the site without encroaching any of the parking areas. And similarly with the hotel, their deliveries are predominantly a single unit truck, a box truck per se. And again, we've analyzed that for a box truck to come into the loading area and then back out, and then back out to Butler Farm Drive. We have another exhibit if we can look at it. It's the turning radius plans that we prepared for the movements that I just described. So now that we have at least 24 feet for a maneuvering around the foundation for the portico, and also 2 lanes for a drop off and bypass lane, I guess, if you will, in front of the hotel. So hopefully that addresses some of those comments within the review letter. And then I guess, Alex, I'll turn it back to you. We're willing to go through each one of the comments. If
One
you so
other
wish.
comment before we move on. I think, Greg, you had a question last time and it had to do with,
I'm sorry again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a left turn lane, designated left turn lane now at the traffic signal. Is that what you mean? Oh, in this area. Yeah. I don't, truly, I don't believe that the traffic generated to get to the hotel. And number two, we've got two accesses now to service the hotel. It's not a high trip generator, especially when we have high counts of traffic using the athletic fields. I really don't think it's warranted to have a separate like right turn lane, I guess, coming into the site. Well, again, coming to the event, they'll be coming through all past the two pads to the entry house and into the parking fields way in the back. So I think people visiting the athletic fields will be driving right through this area. And the limited amount of traffic that we have at the hotel, again, we have two accesses to come in. I don't expect there ever be the instance where we have traffic which is being backed up in the parking field of the hotel. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm completely misreading it. I'm sorry.
I think, to clarify, I think what I heard the last time anyway, after you go under the bridge, Chichester Avenue, the existing bridge, I'm
Yes.
assuming there's going to be another bridge. But after you go under the existing bridge, you start coming up the hill towards the entrance to the athletic fields. And what Greg's suggesting is that coming up that particular way, there could be a situation where the traffic could be queued trying to turn right going into in there. It's not a 3-lane road or anything like that. You're going to have to stop and wait for whoever's turning right to be able to turn right. And if there was a queue for any reason, they wouldn't be able to do that. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I'm uncertain. I don't know. I'm not. Okay. Well, Al, I'm glad you showed up. Great. Anything else, Greg? Alex, if you would, we'll go over each one of the comments, and to the extent that we have any issues with it, I'd like you to expand upon that. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
I misunderstood.
I may not have been totally clear. I mean, but there could be in any of these where there's a will comply or there's a comment. If anybody on the board has anything else they want to mention with respect to that comment, we'll stop and simply entertain a discussion on that particular item. The items that may not be totally complied, or there's some confusion or still information necessary or whatnot, let's try to limit our discussion around those items. I mean, that's what I was suggesting.
That was my fault. I misunderstood.
So how about if I do it this way? If we make a motion that will accept the letter of August 26th with respect to the issues that were currently outstanding and responded to by the applicant, by our township engineer, with the exception of those items which we have some further discussion. Everybody, if I could hear motions.
Well,
I don't have the oldest one.
Okay.
yeah, can I get a copy too? Oh, the only thing too is a fire hydrant was mentioned. I didn't see
We-
addressed. I don't know if we'll do that now or not.
Okay, so with that, I have a motion to accept the August 26th. I have a motion to accept the August 26th letter into the record.
Yes, Steve Conrad, the owner, is indicating that, yes, there's a fire hydrant a little bit further into the site to the right as we're looking at the plans from the hotel site. And I think one of the comments is to show that hydrant on our plans.
Okay, so can I have a motion to accept the memo into the record?
Motion to accept?
Favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed. Alex, if you'd like to proceed then with those items where you can mention what the issue is, and with respect to that, Matt, you can respond.
And knowing that ahead of time is acceptable, so that we, when the next pad comes in, we'll know ahead of time that we need to do our traffic counts and we can have time to do them. Fine, yes. And that's still fine.
Now, will we be taking into consideration the new traffic pattern from the 322 construction? Everything's going to be funneling in right at the ball fields.
Well, I think what's requested is to do the traffic counts and entering and leaving the site, and also, I guess, going by the site. So, yes, that would be picking up any increased traffic that there may be on Chichester Avenue also.
How could we factor in for any additional development in that area? One of the things we were looking at, someone had proposed a plan of a transportation hub literally right across the street from the ball fields.
I, I personally, it sounds good to me. My concern is how do we memorialize this so that those who are sitting on the planning commission at some future date and come in, let's say, to expand the project with the other two pads, that we don't have somebody coming back and say, well, we did do a traffic study. I'd like to have this somehow memorialized into the record. It doesn't sound like it's going to affect this particular opportunity to go forward with this particular plan, but I'd like to memorialize it for the record so that if you come in for the other two pads or one of the other two pads, that knowledge that a traffic study would be required. All right, so I'll go with that. Are you agreeable with that?
Yes.
Okay, so that we'll incorporate that into our recommendation. All right, thank you. So Alex? Looking forward to
Well, the parcel to the left, as we're looking at the plan, was designated as a restaurant pad, and we still believe that's probably a likely candidate here. Now, one thing about a restaurant development of that pad is that the building is much, much smaller, and usually you have the parking field which completely surrounds the building, so that one means of ingress and egress, it would be sufficient. They'd come in, they could circle the building either way and go back out. And then we're certainly agreeable to whenever pad 3 or pad 1 is developed, that those pads are across from each other. That makes perfect sense. But for the time being, with our hotel site, we originally only had one access, and we were asked to put the second one in by the fire marshal. And that was not in your letter, Alex, the second access? Your first review? Well, it was definitely the fire marshal. So, yes, yeah. So we put in the second access here to the right-hand side. Now, at the time that there may be development on pad 3, I mean, I guess that could be further investigated, whether there can be some kind of reconfiguration for one access point. But for this application right now, we needed 2 accesses and we need them as proposed. That's possible. Now, what we have to be sensitive to is the 72-room hotel. We have enough parking now just to meet the township's requirements. We've got just enough parking that the zoning code requires. And that got a little bit more complicated because we lost some spots with the second access and with the additional maneuvering at the rear, back southwest corner, I guess that is, we lost the space. And even to put the fire access around the back corner to the yes. Again, we have just enough parking required by code. So if we cut in here with another access, we're going to lose 2 or 3 spots, and we're going to have an issue with the zoning ordinance. Now, that's not to say that we can't have shared parking at that time between the 2 uses, and that very well may work out, and I don't think there'd be any objection to that. But right now, we'd like to construct this site as proposed. If you're looking for some kind of notation on the plan for possible future connection for tie-in, I think we can accommodate that. I'll have to talk to Steve. I think we can accommodate that.
Let me just go for clarification here. With shared parking, I kind of think that's the solution to the problem we developed. Is there a fence or anything going to be provided? That's not even in the plans, correct?
Correct.
So if that macadam or whatever is there is probably going to, if anything, it'll enhance the ability to have shared parking if that's the decision you make at that particular.
Because our proposed paving is so close to we call it just the project area line. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that note on the plan, and I think Mike makes a very good observation, which is the planning commission at that time would have to consider that application and talk to them about parking, et cetera, and what that might cost. And we can bring that issue up at that point.
Yes.
Mike, is it note for consideration of pad 3 to have single entrance with shared parking?
So again, there's nothing locked in here. We're just saying that that's the consideration that would have to be discussed and kicked around at that particular. Something you can live with, Matt?
Yes.
Alex?
I'd rather put a note on a plan and talk about future or potential future access or something like that. Once we place an easement on the plan, we've locked ourselves in. Yeah, it might be at that time that this access gets relocated to the property line and that there's some kind of reconstruction there. I mean, we don't know what's going on. It could take a variety of configurations. We have no problem putting a note that is what is a concern of the township and what they're looking for in terms of traffic planning. But I again, be wary of putting an easement on the plan because
I actually like that. I think that's a great idea. And that if that fact happened, you would probably move the way it's structured right now, and you gain a parking spot on that side if you moved it towards the center.
possibly, yeah.
You know, I mean, so I don't think you have to go that far. In what we're talking about.
Yeah, I believe after your first review, we I guess we're making an argument against it, but I've talked with Steve since that time, and he has no problem doing that. So we will continue the sidewalk with concrete aprons across both of our access points. Right. Based on an earlier review, it was a request that we have an accessible route from Butler Farm Drive to the hotel. So we put it at the location which lined up with the handicap parking spaces for the hotel. I think the comment is, would it be any better centrally located going through the portico to the front door? My concerns with that configuration is that we've all been to this type of hotel, Days Inn or Holiday Inn, and if there's any place where there's some confusion with traffic patterns, it's right around that area. And usually this support for the portico is landscaped or at least concrete island. I think it just made better sense. Excuse me, better sense to come right to the left side, I guess, as you're coming down in, by the handicap spaces anyway, and then getting into the hotel.
The portico, that's going to be like with the drop off, I guess.
Drop off. Yes. This this jog here, Al? Well, I mean, we could certainly come right across to that parking. Well, we would switch. This would become a parking spot, and then the path would be through. Mhm. I know what you're saying, and might have to sit down with a template and take a look, see. Well, well, I think we have the 24-foot now, Alex. It just goes, both lanes go around this side, around the north side. Mhm.
Let me ask for some clarification here. I'm pulling in, I come in on the left side there, and I'm dropping off my bag. So I'm going to pull under the portico, pull in front of the front doors, whatever I normally do when I pull into a hotel, drop my bags. You said days in, so there's nobody coming out to get my bags. So I'm going to be dropping off my bags there. All right. But what I just thought I just heard was if I came in and I had no bags and whatnot, I was just going to, let's say that I just went to the restaurant. I'm already a occupant of the hotel. I can pull in, and on the top side of the portico there, I can go straight across.
Yeah.
With without any interference. Is that what I'm hearing?
It is. Now, it's not a straight shot. I mean, you're going to, as you come in, you're going to have to come around here and back. But I mean, that kind of acts a little bit of as a traffic calming too. I mean, if I don't know if you want to, a straight, well, I mean, a straight through could definitely work. I'm not going to argue that, but the extra maneuverability will slow the cars down there.
I
And
think we just did that in front of the Wawa where we straightened it out so that cars weren't speeding down the road going past the Wawa. Had them divert around to slow them down. So actually, that may not have been the design on purpose, but it certainly would
Yeah.
accomplish what you
Yeah.
just mentioned.
And I don't know if there's a whole lot of traffic this way anyway. I think if you come in this, if somebody comes in here, they'll drop off and they'll probably just continue straight and hit one of these parking spots, or maybe they'll come back and try to hit one of these parking spots. But it's not like people are over here and want to get over to here unless the parking area is full. So this will be used for drop off without a doubt. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of traffic just going back and forth in front of the hotel because they can get out at either side of the property.
In the case of a car that's bypassing there, if there's an oncoming vehicle, does one of them have to pull over to let the other one?
So if a car comes in and there's a car here and one comes by, there's a possibility, I guess, that another car is coming by. But again, with this configuration, I think all the vehicles are moving, fairly slowly, 10 miles an hour, and I don't perceive that as a safety issue. At this location? Yes.
Would it be possible, or does it even make sense to make that like one way? Just go that way so you wouldn't have anybody going in the opposite. They would go out the other exit to go out the Butler. You come in on that one, you can go down, you can go straight through and go down, but that would be the exit. And that would be one way. So somebody. No, I'm maybe I'm not making myself clear.
I guess if it was one way this way, you could.
I wasn't talking about, I was talking about one way, you come in the entrance, make a left. That entire stream there is just one way in that direction, just that stream. Everything else is both ways. So when you come up to get out, you wouldn't go straight. Let's say I was parked on the left side of the hotel there. I wouldn't go straight out that exit. Under what I'm proposing, you'd have to make a right and go out the other exit. That's all. I wasn't proposing one way down the hole and then had to pay a year's worth of rent for the hotel room until they built that easement we were talking about to go out the other way. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I was just trying to address Cindy's concern.
We, we could skinny that up and we could pull it down. We'd have to agree upon what width here would be appropriate. 10 feet wide? Yeah.
Speaking of which, is that for a bus or anything like that to go through?
No.
So if a ball team came in, were in a bus or whatnot, they'd have to probably drive up, drop everybody off.
Yeah, they would,
and go park somewhere else.
right. They could get by on the outside there and they would just pull over and let everybody empty. They'd have to find off-site parking. Where, back here?
No, there's a very large
Yeah, right.
parking area in the back.
Back, yeah, we have. I mean, informally, I guess probably we could, yes.
We can get an Uber for the bus driver.
Yeah. All right. Well, we started down this path, and we could get back to traffic signals or traffic the traffic patterns. I meant to say here. We were talking about the ADA connection between the hotel and Butler Farm Drive. I mean, we can put it here. I mean, there's nothing that stops us from doing that. So we'd have to come up. The problem is there's a little bit of grade differential between Butler Farm Drive and the parking field. So we cross, get to the green area, switch back, and get up to the point where we can. Okay. So we'll either take the kink out by relocating it, but if it does interfere with the lane width we need, we can relocate it at the center. Here? Yes. Yeah, the parking area is at an elevation lower than the roadway. And it's such a short distance, you can't have a 5% or even 8% slope. Here? Here? Was I trying to get a depressed curb to Butler Farm Drive there? Yeah. You don't think that is appropriate? Well, we can remove that. That doesn't help our grading differential between the parking area and the street. Right, we'll remove that. It's not like it's a tremendous amount of relative difference. It's just we have very little horizontal length to make up any vertical difference. If that works, that would be maybe our first attempt. If it interferes with what we need to do with width between the portico and the parking space, then we can pull it over here and then switch back either way to get up to the sidewalk adjacent to Butler Farm Drive. We
I was just more worried about, is there room for it to move through? I don't envision a bus hanging out for anything more than 15 minutes.
it can make it through the parking area. But it would just make it through and pull over and drop off for however long that takes, 10 minutes. Again, I don't think it's, as Al said, not a frequent occurrence. I think that can be accommodated for the serviceability of the hotel. Yes, we're removing the ADA ramp from the sidewalk adjacent to Butler Farm Drive down to the pavement of Butler Farm Drive.
I can't follow where you.
So when we started on the ADA ramp, and then we got. Yes. Right. Uh, No, we pushed it further into the site. Andrew, there's a revised traffic turning plan. I think that was the right plan. All right, if maybe pan down the sheet. All right, that's the load. Where's the trash? No, the one you had previously. Yes. Does that say revised in the heading? Oh, here it is here. Alex, the where'd you go? The trash enclosure was originally. Oh no, that's the original one. Wait a minute. No, that's the right one. Trash truck comes in, pulls in. This is further in. We increase the paving down here so it can back up, and then leave the site without encroaching into parking areas. No.
So the trash trucks we're talking about are those front things that
Front loader.
over.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The comment was, we've got. Yeah, and we understand that, and that's a valid concern. I think we're open to what we can do there. I think Steve just had an issue with maintenance and stuff to leave it a grass way. Well, I think we would just, yeah, we would have. Yeah, we would put very bold pavement marking right here, loading zone. Or fire, that's fine. We can commit to providing some means to prevent people from going past the parking space to the rear to the satisfaction of the township's transportation engineer. We can commit to that. Right. Yes. No.
That makes perfectly good sense. I mean,
Chichester. We do have do you have a sheet one there, Andrew? It's an overall plan. So the existing one is here, up here, on that side. Yeah. Yeah, no, we can certainly do that. And there's a number of stormwater comments. I mean, we can comply with them all. I'd like to get together with Alex um, and coordinate with him. A couple items I think we're okay, but maybe he's looking for calculations from us to say that we're okay. I mean, Alex has reviewed a lot of our plans over the years. We usually, sooner or later, get on the same page with stormwater management.
So if we put a comment in with respect to conformity with the engineer's recommendation with stormwater,
Yeah.
that would be suffice.
Yes.
Okay.
What comments that? Yeah, I think it would have to be sprinkler. Yeah. 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 I'm sure your township's code enforcement officer would certainly, you know, comment on that during the review. But I believe a 3-story hotel building has to be sprinkled. Yeah, we're gonna have a meter pit with two meters. We'll use their standard size. I mean, depending on what you need, they have a size for what you need for your flow, and whether you have 2 lines or 1 or 2 meters or 1 meter. But we will. I mean, generally, Chester Water will dictate what we need to use, and that's what we got to do. Right. 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 Yeah. I mean, we had previously obtained the approval and the sizing of the water mains that entered this site with Chester Water. We will certainly follow up with them. We have to request a service and meter out with them. And I'm sure your fire marshal, if he's got specific flow rates that he's going to require, we're going to have to meet that standard.
Let's just go around the table. Cindy, you have anything?
I don't have anything else at the moment.
I have nothing. Jeff?
No, I don't have anything further.
All right, so with that, let's hear a motion. Somebody want to make a motion with respect to adoption of a recommendation to the board for a preliminary final land development. Second? Oh, yeah. Incorporating the comments we had previously mentioned before the adoption of the letter and the comments with respect to concurrence with the concurrences. We have a motion second. All in favor? Any opposed? Guys have it.
Thank you.
Okay, Matt, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, the items that we were talking about do not seem to be significantly over burdensome with respect to the finalization of where we want to go with this. So yes, performance with the engineer will be sufficient. Okay. We'll make the recommendation to the board and you'll get scheduled.
Thanks again.
Next month, because we have still have to wait engineers to actually.
That and our other recommendations.
I'm saying that it may not be. Correct, that's what I'm saying, yes. I just want to make sure they knew that it's not necessarily guaranteed that there'll be commissioners this month. Right. We don't know, I'm just saying we don't know. Okay. But I just don't want to, have everybody thinking, okay, we still have, the engineers have to work now. Okay. Make sure. You understand what I was saying? I was saying that,
Will the traffic
we
study
can't
be an
schedule a
engineering issue?
commissioners meeting until the two, actually work now.
After. Still needs to be put in, right?
Correct. Thank you.
Right, does anybody need a break or are we good to go?
Ooh.
All right.
The
Getting-
person for Dunkin Donuts,
I'm sorry.
a person here for Dunkin Donuts. I should be saying it. The person for Dunkin Donuts is here in attendance.
Okay. Would you like to come forward and announce who you are for the record?
What'd you say? Oh. Oh.
Good evening. I'm Paul Hughes with Kimley Horn for the applicant. Oh, good, we have our plan up. I understand this board did review this plan prior to zoning action that was taken, I believe, in May. So we're now back before you with a preliminary final application. I'll very quickly walk through. I'm sure you're familiar with the site. 464A Conchester Pike, or 322, of course. The proposal is to demolish the existing service station and construct a Dunkin' Donut shop with drive-through parking, stormwater management, and typical site improvements as depicted on the site plan here. We have also received comments from your township engineer and traffic engineer, for which we've issued responses with a letter dated today. And of course, we're happy to go through those comments in detail as you just did with the other application, and make sure that we are all clear on any potential action items or revisions that would be required. Of the letter, I have copies of the letter if you don't have them. I have more if anybody wants some. I'll just leave them with you. Maybe before I presume you would turn it to Alex and Al, I will say, generally speaking, we are willing to comply with all of the comments, either directly or in coordination with your professionals. But again, we're happy to go through the comments in detail and make sure we are all understanding of the action items.
The site needs to have some definite tweaks regarding how we can make it work. But to kind of give you just an overview of the circulation on this site, they are trying to put a right turn decel lane, which will become a through lane in the future when PennDOT widens the road. Al, is that correct?
A decel lane for right turn into the site. That's correct.
No, but I'm saying at some point when PennDOT widens the road, it'll just become turn into a through lane, I think, right? I think it physically just turns into a through lane at some
Let me
point in the
check.
future.
I do have the HOP set here.
Right, it's not I don't think it's I don't think.
Well, there's
But that's
the last
not-
sheet is future widening.
And I don't have a concern with that. I just wanted to maybe explain how I think I was seeing it. So when the people on 322 are going to be making that right turn, his truck turning template that we've seen has not been demonstrating that the truck turn can make a turn from the right lane and do the 180 because it has to go. Plan doesn't show the 322 side, but you're coming down the road, and when you try to make this right turn, I haven't really seen a plan that clearly shows that the truck can make that turn. But his driveway is set up so that you're basically, your 322 is a one-way because you have the median separating the two, so you'll be coming through this side and coming back out that side. So we have some difficulty, it looks like, with the trucks, which we just need them to help see if they can make that, make some adjustments to make that work. I am not too sure about how these two parking spots would be during a busy period. I mean, it's not an all-day issue, but it's only during a peak period, I guess, where you're going to have people trying to back out at the same time that everybody's trying to come in through here. I also believe that, and I think I explained it to Paul, that if you try to envision this stall length here, this stall length is 18-foot standard to protect the car that's parked, but this one is shy right now, and you said you would try to make that modification so that this lane also has an 18-foot depth, so that when a car is parked there, and that's of course if they decide to keep it or maybe make an adjustment so that they're not going to back into traffic. I don't know, because it's possible that in order to make that turn, you may not be able to physically fit them there too, possibly.
I'll say for the record that at this point, and I think I forget what the language solicitor used, but the plan is as presented. So we're going to proceed with that understanding at this point. In terms of the details, such as this parking stall, we did look at this today, and we can encroach a little bit into that island to get that additional length. It absolutely does need the additional length. It is short as it is currently.
That's what I'm
presented.
saying. There's adjustments that we'll
Yeah.
need to, because this plan at first looks fairly straightforward, but
I wanted to just drop this up. This is, we have the current, or the future widening plan for 322. It kind of goes off the page. It doesn't seem clear if
so it's a
if that's
permanent.
now a through lane, or if it's going to merge back in.
I believe it stays so.
Okay.
I recall the early parts of this, that was the coordination that was done.
Okay, good.
I think the design of the right turn lane into the site itself. And which the last submission they made was in May. But as Alex pointed out, there's been some inconsistencies in the truck turns as they've come into the site. That parking stall is another issue because, unless that gets adjusted, that could potentially be a problem. And I know Alex has expressed concerns about those two spaces right in front of the entrance. So I think there's still a little bit that needs to be worked through.
And then the other inconsistency was the fire truck. What they presented to the fire marshal was I think like about an 18-foot wheelbase. Usually we see a 22-foot wheelbase, but the plan that was submitted with the land development was a shorter wheelbase of about 16 foot. So just some clarifications that had to get ironed out with truck circulation. And then the loading zone in the back, it seems like it's basically would be blocking your bypass lane. So one thought, I guess, is that and it ties in with the zoning condition. The zoning condition had stipulated the hours of operation.
Right.
And I think your plan typed in delivery hours as opposed to hours of operation. So if the hours of operation are from, I think, 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., right? The deliveries, I think there's going to have to be a coordination that says deliveries, if the deliveries are going to come at 5, and I don't know if it's a half hour or 1 hour operation, but then I guess it would be best to probably have the hour of opening the business maybe at 6, so that it would be probably easier for them to just use this lane here as a temporary loading zone and get everything in and out perhaps. And then that way it's not really affecting the operations, but that's something that you have to
Yeah, we can clarify.
discuss that with Duncan to see if maybe
Yeah.
that's something. But right now, I think if they are going to open up the business at 5 and they got to get a delivery somewhere during that 5 to 8, then I think this site is going to be very tight on deliveries. Al, or do you think it'd be, or they got to stipulate it later in the evening perhaps, right?
If that is the delivery. And again, you're restricting the bypass lanes. Not desired, particularly on the site that's this tight. Hopefully be able to schedule deliveries after.
And just to be clear, so obviously we have to clarify the logistics, but so we have to clarify the logistics, but also list specifically operation, business hours and delivery hours on the plan.
In conformity with the zoning.
Right.
Yep. Okay.
The zoning order was they're going to be open from 5 to 8. Your interpretation be that's open to the public, or could they have staff there?
I have to look at I don't know what the zoning order actually said, or what the testimony was. That would have to be clarified.
Yeah, I sent it to you.
Yeah.
I did send it.
I may have seen it at some point, but
I'll send it to you.
yeah, that would need to be clarified. Because that could create a pretty, not only could it create a problem with the traffic flow, it may create a problem with the neighbors if it's 4 o'clock in the morning deliveries, where they actually open for business.
Right.
Probably need to get that clarified. So, and any recommendation for approval would need to incorporate the conditions of the zoning approval. And then if there are clarifications that are needed, that would go when they get ready for operation, I think. Appropriate time.
But we'll have this clarification noted on the plan so that we have it.
Exactly. Right. We noted on the plan said this needs to be clarified, correct?
Oh, I was thinking the clarification,
Or the
clarification itself would be on the plan. That way,
Well, it would incorporate the zoning.
code enforcement officers then will be able to use the plan to say, hey, you are violating the approved plan and
No, I'm
cite
gonna-
them.
I'm going to take a wild guess, and that is going to write an ordinance based primarily on the ability of people in the neighborhood to sleep and enjoy their pleasures, et cetera, without interruption, that nothing's happening before 5 o'clock. And I think that's probably the
I would say
message.
that would be that would have been the interpretation, but my only concern was, I don't know if there was any testimony at the zoning hearing about deliveries during off hours, so that's why I hedged my discussion.
Okay.
They talked. I'm gonna have an operation.
Are we okay with that?
We have to explain what right here, hours of operation.
Well, I think that's what the issue is. Does hours of operation encompass prep time? Right, and that's the question, because obviously if it's bakery and donuts, we're gonna have to do some prep time. Some of the staff are gonna have to be there to do that, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, but we just need that clarification, absolutely.
Another issue is that I was completely dumbfounded when I found out that there's no public water fronting this property. They got a well water in the back, and some of the ordinance requirements talk about how you have to show existing utilities within 200 feet. But we started off with the concern about what kind of certification / approvals from the state or county so that this well water is suitable for public use as opposed to a private well water for the business. But then more additional thoughts started to come up, and since there's no fire line here, we've now felt that it's better to just, instead of moving towards can a well water be suitable for a commercial use, that from a fire safety, it's probably really best to probably have the public water line extended so that we have a fire hydrant within a reasonable proximity to this site. So that's what we would like to see, would be the public water line extended and a fire hydrant placed.
And that's one thing that's, having a will service letter, if you will, that basically says our service surface area, but maybe use that drain or.
That Chester Water Authority.
Yeah. Well, we've done some extensions with Chester Water in the past, and basically, the experience I had with them was that we were basically dictating to them, when I say dictate, basically just showing them the alignment that we're looking for. And they would basically then dictate the size and where they want the hydrant. But it basically was the developer, on our projects, it was basically the developer had to get that initial agreement set up so that Chester Water would design the extension.
Yeah, they won't do it unless.
And-
there's approval.
And there's funds for that the developer's paying for the extension. And then once you get the developer on board with making that initial contract with the water company, it goes fairly quickly. I mean, it's not like you really need to have a lot of input from them. They just basically say, you've committed, you want the water line to go to the middle of the property, and you're hoping to get a hydrant like within a couple 100 feet of it or something. And once they get that contract set up, and they have the money that the developer puts in, they'll start designing it for you. So that can move forward fairly quickly.
And it has to be worked with us. My position is that I don't know when you say that.
Mhm.
This is a 10-foot main extension or 1,000-foot main extension. Here with options, continue to the viability of using the on-site water for both, for this use, or if it is.
I don't know that the building codes are gonna permit on-site water use of that level for a commercial building, especially restaurant.
And that may be the case, I'm just not in a position to say, without having any idea what that final number might be. Yeah, is it a 1,000-foot main extension, 100-foot main extension, 10-foot main extension? Obviously, wildly different.
Well,
Well, again, we probably need to get that straightened out, because I don't know that this board would recommend an approval without that water issue being addressed, because that impacts the fire marshal, that impacts the health officer has to do the inspections. I mean, there's a multitude of things, and again, only a suggestion to you. I would think about getting that all squared away first before you're asking for an approval. It's the same, it's the same type of use, it's the same function.
yeah.
Right, doesn't make any difference.
The final large issue right now is that unfortunately they don't have any room on the right side of the property to put stormwater facilities because they have storm sewer and sanitary running on that side. They've chosen as their initial location, I think, basically was close to the storm sewer. Once they realized they have sanitary, they shifted their stormwater basin to this side of the site. And unfortunately, they have zero infiltration rate based on their infiltration testing. So the stormwater calculations that they submitted right now was using an assumed infiltration rate. It has dead storage, and they routed it, but that whole design changes because if there's no infiltration occurring, then basically the dead storage becomes literally dead storage, so that the next storm event has no place to go but just go right through the outlet structure. So their basin has to be redesigned, and they do have one option that isn't acceptable in a zero infiltration rate that DEP has recently put out, which is called the managed release concept. But I think you guys are trying to avoid that, I heard.
So first of all, it's all so I think I do want to clarify, this seems to imply that it's physically impossible to infiltrate that rate. Doesn't necessarily mean we're trying to get
No, I'm with you, right.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear. If we needed to make sure that was a lot. Seems to say required to be waived if possible.
Right. Yeah, the only thing that's making it a difference now versus when the ordinance was written, and I have to have some more discussions, I think, with the solicitor and Lisa, would be the fact that now that the MS4s have come into play with the municipalities, the MS4s are picking up the burden for spending a lot of money on their dime as far as all the outfalls having to meet a TSS MS4 water quality for the community. And I don't want them, like I said, the solicitor can definitely help read, and with Lisa, we got to figure out that we don't want that to be something that impacts negatively to the municipality if they just grant a waiver and there's no water, because basically water quality infiltration kind of work hand in hand the way that the ordinance is set up right now. Right. Yeah. So we'll have to work out that one, I think.
Yeah, that'll make sure that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully you might find better information, but I think the last I looked, I think a jellyfish right now is the only DEP approved water quality device. They call it a jellyfish, but it's a it's a big filter. It's a big filtration system. No, no, no. It's a underground device that has a bunch of filters that are long wise in this direction, and I guess because of those filters hanging, I guess somebody decided to call it a jellyfish instead of an octopus or something. But so yeah, we have to work that one out. And then I guess I think the sound was a minor issue, and I know Charlie and I talked about the sound, and I think you were hoping that they might have directional. You said speakers to help force the sound to stay
Right.
closer to the drivers and not just go blaring out. There was a call for a sound barrier, and I have about 3 other projects similar where we have these sound concerns, and and one of them is with my own project for a developer. And so I was trying to do my own small research by just reaching out to these companies that make sound protection, and they are, without me going to the level of hiring a sound engineering professional, they basically said the rule of thumb is you want to get that sound barrier as close to the source and a minimum of 4 feet above. And they said most likely you'll find the acoustical engineers will be able to say that that is working as a sound barrier. I don't know if, I mean, maybe you might be able to put like a small barrier closer to the curve of the curb line in the back to try to get that acoustical sound closer to the source. But I think when Charlie and I talked about the product that you were looking at, and there's a couple of companies that make this product. It's a fabric. Now the one I looked up, it looks like a 1 to 2 inch thick product. I think the product you looked at was remarkably thinner. Yeah, well, they're both meant to be hung on a wall or a fence, and you're the manufacturer you found was much thinner than the one I saw. Not saying that they're, I mean, I would hope that they make a product that works, but the Charlie's concern was the fact, like, what's the lifespan of this? Is this going to be something that's going to start, as it deteriorates, going to be flapping with the wind? I guess it was, there was more of a maintenance concern. I think you and I were discussing for that.
Yeah, well, it was, but the other thing was longevity.
Yeah.
And then it had to do with, and I wasn't thinking about this, interweaving things, fences, which would give it stability of some kind.
Well, yeah, they were going to try to somehow, well, they were going to go with like a wooden double,
you
right?
have
You
to
saw
think
that?
about the local residents. I mean, after all, you open up the door, everything's fine day one, you're anything 367 days later when the warranty expires.
And
Whatever the heck it is,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you wake up in the morning and it says, "I'll have a number 5." It's coming right out my window. I'm not going to be happy.
yeah. So, so what little research I've done for a couple of projects I'm on, my gut feeling right now, unless you can maybe get some better input from your supplier that might look at this site for you, perhaps. I'm just thinking maybe it might be better just to put a solid PVC fence around the fence line for the residents and then try to put something a little closer that if they have to maintain and take it down, it's not like they're actually taking down the privacy fence in order to fix it. It's like another separate freestanding fence that's kind of just trying to wrap from the directional point of the speakers coming off of those ordering spots. But detail that we could work out, I think.
Yeah, we can provide more information.
Well, there's definitely like a requirement on what the decibel level would be when if somebody was going to put I'm not sure what you call the device, but a those acoustical engineers, they have a device that you would turn on and you would get a sound level reading and they would basically go at the property line. And the zoning ordinance requires a certain decibel reading. And I just requested for ease of not trying to hinder them is just simply put a note that they note what that requirement is. And that way, if the town or if a resident ever felt they had some concerns, they have the information that they could look up and check on that sound level. So that summarizes basically the major concerns. I think the other ones we could work through more readily than these other bigger ticket items.
Does anybody have any specific questions on or concerns with respect to stormwater, with respect to the sound barrier, with respect to anything?
I just want to clarify the issue with the right lane turn and the construction of Route 322. So as the plan is submitted today, there is the turn lane. And if I'm understanding correctly, when construction is completed, that turn lane will actually be a lane of traffic.
No, I misspoke. It's right, Al, you said it's a,
I need to verify that based on.
oh, I thought you said it was a permanent.
I believe it'll stay as a deceleration.
Okay.
Every right-hand turn on the new 322 that's been completed so far has a right-hand turn lane. Why they would have anything else?
Oh, shoot. Oh, I do have one more. I overlooked one item. Sidewalk. The zoning ordinance requires sidewalk. And Al, I think you said that these latest plans do not show sidewalk along this frontage.
PennDOT, so, yeah, PennDOT, so I did speak to them about that the other day. The sidewalk that they're proposing down from the Wawa will stop short of this site. At the moment, PennDOT is not proposing sidewalk part of the project. Not hit his hand one way or the other on whether sidewalk was going to be added to that. If at some point,
Right.
if at some point sidewalk is built along here, prior to along here,
Yeah.
then we would need at least the potential way to connect from the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And our, and of course, this, I just talked about the sidewalk earlier, or I guess the lack thereof, in terms of the PennDOT plans. Our response to the record was that if a project, in this case, this project were to result in sidewalk, that, which presumably would be the sidewalk section to connect to the public sidewalk and, crosswalk to
Right, but the issue that I'm raising though is not the interconnect at this point. It was that Al thought initially that they did have a sidewalk on the plan with PennDOT. And when he thought that PennDOT had that criteria, then we thought to work with you, the best answer was put a note on the plan that a sidewalk would be installed. And if PennDOT failed to install it, you would install it at a later, if they didn't install it, you would install it. But that was with the assumption that PennDOT was going to be putting that sidewalk. But if PennDOT's not going to put it in and you're not showing it, then you would need a zoning relief from the zoning section that says all new construction has to have public sidewalk. So the dilemma right now is trying to see if because you already went to the zoning hearing board. But somebody who made this submission to the zoning hearing board for all the variances overlooked requesting the sidewalk variance. So we thought we had an answer for you by saying, oh, PennDOT's going to put it in. So put a note and then we don't need you. But now that PennDOT's not putting in, I'm not sure what's the route to do that. Now there's some other minor zoning issues that we saw, but I think you should be able to resolve them because it's shrubs and landscaping type things. So I think all those you can make go away by adding it as required. But I think the sidewalk we have to think about. Because it's not I think it's in both saldo and zoning, but the minute it goes to zoning, then it's a variance versus the commissioners granting a waiver for that sidewalk. It's nothing to do with, like, that sidewalk has nothing to do with impacting how the site operates, unfortunately, but just wish that they submitted a variance at the time they did all the other items. Yeah. Yeah.
Good thought. On the roadway, right?
Yeah. And I think when you told me out of the plan, it's odd that PennDOT stopped it because I think it was basically Story Road.
Yeah.
And between Story to Dutton, which is this frontage, that would have been like, why not just go the extra block with PennDOT and just have a sidewalk and.
Not related to this matter here, but they're building 322 right past an existing shopping center on one side and McDonald's on the other side, where there is no, to the best of my knowledge, there's no sidewalk on the McDonald's side.
And everybody has to walk on the street.
No, no, I understand that. So if PennDOT is requiring sidewalks at that point, then I would assume that PennDOT will put in sidewalks on McDonald's. Or would they take an existing business and say, well, now that we've done this, you have to put a sidewalk in? Our township ordinance,
They don't have the authority to do that.
and our township ordinance wouldn't have the authority to have McDonald's if that were the case.
Not in existing, not unless they did a full.
Something that
New again.
to change the criteria.
Right.
And I'm not referring to this because it's McDonald's, it's just an
Yeah.
existing piece of property that happens to be there. Yeah, the need for the sidewalk is just a township ordinance, first off, that may or may not be problematic depending on what PennDOT plans are.
We'll know that, I guess.
They can, Al can give you, Al can give you what their plan is.
I didn't see any plans.
I mean, what I'm saying is, what their plans now are.
They still said, hey, and that said they're gonna put it in, and
Right.
they complied with the fact that they don't have to put it in because somebody is bringing it in. And the blame's on PennDOT. But I don't know if somebody can call PennDOT and say, throw on your plan.
Let me walk through a few options here. Don't have the variance. If you get out of every part of the pen. Not likely, but the option might be that we don't plan. Like to move the plan forward. Of course, commit to building it. But then does that preclude us from filing a variance application? The variance application was.
Well, right, you could show it on the plan that you're going to build it, commit to build it, and then at some point, if you wanted to then later, as things move along, ask for a variance from that. Good.
We could do that concurrently.
Why not?
Oh, yeah, come in for a variance
Yeah.
prior, just
that's it.
before building time, in
Yeah,
other words.
exactly.
Right.
For the actual building, it would be approved based on you putting the sidewalk in, but before you actually start the construction with the following plans, you would file for that. Then you would have some, you may have some clarification.
Mhm.
Or the other option is to depend on, say, another block. Look at options, it's really an option.
Right. But for sake of expediency of this application.
You would need to show it, commit to build it, and then.
Commit to doing it, show it, and then either PennDOT or the variance.
That would be the most expeditious way.
Yeah.
Certainly would be functional. Moving the plan forward as a sidewalk, wouldn't be any concern.
One of the other two avenues. Reporting or.
Then have to have it about dead point where you put a spade in the ground.
Yep.
That's an unofficial answer to something. Well, I wouldn't say that's an official answer yet until they actually. It's the commitment you're trying to make is a little more solid than it was before with respect if I'm looking at what we could probably summarize here, we have a concern that we'll have to take into consideration as we vote, when we vote, with respect to the well water versus city water,
Public water.
public water. We have a concern with respect to the turning radius for the truck coming in at the present time, which I don't necessarily, I'm thinking the only way I can think of a solution is to eliminate those 2 parking spaces, but that still might not do it. I don't know.
I mean, they could eliminate 2, but then they create the other variance on parking.
Yeah, no,
they-
I'm saying,
yeah.
that would be a concern, but
Yeah.
so that's a concern, the turning radius of the truck coming in off of 322, west, I guess that is. West.
I think we need a definitive answer on the deceleration. Yeah, if we don't have a deceleration, that's.
Well, that's kind of out of our control too. It's PennDOT.
Yeah.
We might want a lot of things, but that's PennDOT's decision.
Right.
And we also have the resolution of the stormwater. I haven't heard of, we have a resolution of it. I hear we have potential that something could be waived, but on the other hand, you have to have
The MS board considerations.
I do have a question. You have referenced a compost filter sock to keep the water from running off into the adjacent property.
Yes.
Is that a permanent thing? I mean, what's the life expectancy on that?
we're done building.
It's just a door construction, obviously.
So with that, I mean, again, our board's responsibility is to make a recommendation. So we can take a vote to make a recommendation, or you could just say, well, let me get a couple more answers here before you guys make a vote for recommendation. That's what I'm saying. Maybe I didn't use those exact terms. That's your call.
Yeah, and listen, of course, the easy. Walk a long way. We're happy to, solve some of the issues.
The other last thing was sound also. So sound.
In a couple places you have, your response is, acknowledge. I don't understand what you mean by that. You mean that you will, address that issue, or do you mean that you just, read the comment and said, oh, yeah, I see the comment? What does that mean? Yeah, I mean, typically, that's just, items that don't involve land change or some other kind of
Substantive
affirmative
issues.
action. So for instance, comment 1 from you, this one, that's essentially a statement about, filing being preliminary / final, and that a waiver is noted on the plan, so it's just. If there's any places where that, aspect of the plan makes sense. The general idea there is affirmative action required. And the other thing that I sort of for comments, plus 20.
had it in 21. In order to get this plan to move forward, it's going to take more definitive. 2021. And response to it.
What I think I heard you say was that you're going to continue to work with the township engineer with respect to clarifications of a few solutions to some of the concerns, and that come up with a few more definitive answers with respect to some of the abatements that we were looking for, the abatement of sand.
That's right.
Okay. So with that, when you have, when you feel you've had adequately addressed those concerns, welcome back. Talk to Barbara, get scheduled. Everybody agree? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We carried forward a different agenda today than we actually had. We did the entire agenda with respect to, but not the order in which we had intended because of logistics. But we have one last thing, and that is to go back to the public and ask them if they have any comments about anything that they've heard this evening, and if they'd like to comment on that. And here is the phone number. You can call in. It's 571-748-4021. Passcode 886-678-217#. Number again is 571-748-4021. And the passcode is 886-678-217#. We'll give that a few minutes and see if we have any comments from the public with respect to our latter second half of the meeting. Andrew, you heard anything yet? We'll give it another minute. While we're waiting for that, I might notice that I have a planning commission shirt that was graciously presented to us from the township, and each one of the members of the board have a shirt. And our solicitor and our engineer will also get a shirt. So it's not mandatory dress code, but they wear it in good health and whatnot. Andrew?
Andrew has helped very much.
Okay. With that, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn. Hearing no comments from the public. Second? In favor, all in favor? Opposed? Have it.